August the 15th, 2022. Guys, you're looking at a stone, and this is on the Elbe River, and this is coming out of the Czech Republic into Germany. And this is called one of many, but it's called a Hungerstein or hunger stone in English. And the lines that you see that are scribed across this thing from left to right or horizontal are the water levels during different years. This goes back to the 1400s. You can see 1615 here. And the reason it's called Hungersteins or hunger stones is because, and here's one of my huskies always coming in the studio, that was Bandit, the black and white one, is that it was times of extreme drought and extreme hunger, especially for the poor populations. And you've seen these lines before. If we look at Lake Mead, and guys, it's in bad shape. You see these on these, if you go down the boat ramps, you'll see these signs, 2018, the water levels here, 2020, 2021, and you'll see that line. But what you're seeing here, this is much older. These more than likely is limestone, and they were, again, centuries-old warnings of famine and hardship that were coming. Now, just out of observation, you notice that these lines are pretty much horizontal and these are tilted. But that's because of this crack right there in this rock. More than likely, again, limestone. We have them in a river that's down in our backyard here called the Strong River. And there's this type of carvings on these rocks. And most of the people on the planet have seen our swim hole. And it's in Delo, Mississippi, I guess maybe a mile and a half in a straight line from my backyard. But, oh brother, where art thou, was filmed there. And that scene down on the rocks like this was where they woke up from where the ladies or sirens had got them drunk on moonshine. They woke up and found one of the friends' clothing there, and the frog jumped out, and they thought that was him. Well, that was in the swim hole that we've all learned to swim in and canoe down and everything else. But that limestone is easy to carve, and this is what we're looking at more than likely. But if you ever go through central Mississippi, it's now named the Delo Water Park. But as we grew up, it was just called the Rocks because of the rocks, and there was a waterfall there, and it was a swim hole and an old dirt road. You got to get down there to it. But now the state has taken it over, and it's called Delo Water Park. It's still very nice. Still very nice. But check that out. But, guys, this is a warning. The Hungerstein or hunger stones are an indication of where you see these emerge from a river that's dropping, that times are about to get rough. And again, it was always about the hunger and the problems for the poor, and we're seeing that now. It says water levels have dropped in major rivers across Europe as the region suffers under historic drought. In those dry riverbeds, centuries-old warning messages have emerged. The horrifying boulders are known as the Hungerstein or hunger stones, and one of these stones is embedded in the Elbe River. That's the one you're looking at, which runs from the mountains of Czechia through Germany to the North Sea. These stones are chiseled with the years of hardship and the initials of authors lost to history. A team of Czech researchers wrote in 2013 study the basic inscriptions warn of the consequences of drought. It expressed that drought had brought a bad harvest, lack of food, high prices, and hunger for poor people. The stones commemorate historic droughts, the researcher said. Now, guys, one thing I want you to remember, between 1400 and 1600s up to now, the population was much smaller. So the effects of drought and hunger will be magnified many times. The recent droughts in Europe once again made visible the hunger stones in some Czech and German rivers. These stones were used to mark desperately low river levels that would forecast famines. Europe's current drought is certainly historic. Scientists at the European Drought Observatory said that the drought is on track to be the worst in 500 years. Guys, there's some reports in certain areas that going back 1,200 years, they have not seen this. It says, according to the Drought Observatory, 47% of Europe is in drought warning conditions, meaning the soil has a moisture deficit. Another 17% is on alert, meaning the vegetation in the area is being affected by the dry conditions. Major rivers in Germany, Italy, and England, the Rhine, the Po, and the Thames. Now, I did a video a couple of days ago. We mentioned the Rhine and the Po, but not the Thames. But let me say this about the Rhine. It had reached 15 point something inches in my video. Remember that? I talked about how low it was. Today it was 13 inches. It says the Rhine, the Po, and the Thames in England, respectively, are drying out. The outlet reported the rivers are too dry, too low, and too warm, which has consequences on wildlife, the economy, and people. That's exactly right. You get it too low, the water gets warm, algae comes in, oxygen is depleted, and the fish die. Guys, it's biblical. Water levels in the Rhine River are about half of their usual depth for this time of the year, which with some sections having even lower water levels. This has made shipping on the river 5 times more expensive because cargo ships must carry less weight to make sure that they do not run aground. A lot of that's being shut down now, but guys, again, poor people suffer. The rich will have what they need. We're seeing that now. Supplies are being diverted worldwide for certain select. The rest will suffer. That's what they want. So you got to be prepared. Now, most of you are in better shape than you think you are, in the sense that the rich that are hoarding everything, pulling supplies, trying to starve you out and all, they're the ones that are going to burn in hell. Not you. Let them have what they want. Get what you can get. But let me tell you this, help your brothers and your sisters. What did Jesus say? Love God with all your heart. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. Do that. Help people. God will see that. You will be some of the ones that are pulled out of Sodom and Gomorrah, because that's where the world is headed. It says water levels in the Rhine River are about half of their usual depth for this time of the year, with some sections having even lower water levels. This has made shipping on the river 5 times more expensive because of cargo ships must carry less weight to make sure they do not run aground. The drought comes after months of high temperatures and little rainfall. The Washington Post reported human-induced climate change, which is BS, has also contributed to the intensity, frequency, and duration of heat events and amplified droughts. These mainstream media idiots will do anything to charge you higher taxes for your carbon footprint. And guys, that's coming very quickly also. If you think that this world is going to stay intact as we know it up until November when the midterms come in, it will take a miracle of God to step his foot down and squash a lot of demons. Because there's no way in hell, with what we saw in Largo and what we're seeing now, that the elections will be allowed to happen at all. There's going to be something come out of that. And just in my opinion, we saw the events at Mar-a-Lago. We're seeing attacks, not attacks, but protests against the FBI. Different cities, different groups, including folks like the folks at Breitbart and Gateway Pundit. Peaceful protest against the FBI for the raid. So what has been accomplished with that? And who is complicit? Or both sides? Is Trump and Biden? Well, Biden's not really anywhere, but is the right and the left are part of the same bird? Okay, so we're seeing all these protests against the FBI because of the raid. Now, what if something like Oklahoma City happens at an FBI building? What will happen? You know what will happen. Martial law will be declared, and some are even saying that we could see blue helmets come in to enforce peace. It's crazy, but just realize where we are at in this world. Jesus said there'd be tribulation like we have never seen before. I believe him. You should believe him too. And so what you've got to do is keep him in mind, keep your faith up, keep looking out after your fellow man, so that as these events occur, as God brings down these curses upon the evil from abortion to war, that you will be untouched. That should be your prayer. And if you have things and you have been storing up, getting prepped, remember all of your family, remember other people around you. Because, again, Christ said, treat the others as you would want to be treated yourself. Love your fellow man. Because, why? Because they're also God's children. It says, according to the European Commission for Environmental, Ocean, and Fisheries, droughts have become a summer reality. Italy, Spain, Germany, Hungary, Romania, Ukraine, and France are still struggling under the drought. Conditions aren't expected to improve anytime soon, with the European Drought Observatory telling Sky News that we have estimated a worsening of the situation in most of Europe. And what happens, guys? The fish die too. That's biblical. We talked about it. And if you look at Lake Mead, it's up about 1.5 feet over the last 14 days. But Lake Powell's down over 2 feet. Why? Because Lake Powell is letting water out into Lake Mead. But if you look at the history of these two dams, Powell was basically developed to be a backup safety for Lake Mead. So that's working. It's just that without a lot of snowfall this winter, that things are going to get pretty rough. I saw new videos today on the drought situations in the marinas. Very few are left. I think there's only one on Lake Mead at all. And how far the water's going down, it's devastating to see. But I saw a measurement. If you look at Lake Mead, you see what they call the bathtub ring, guys. It's that white line way up on the rocks where the water used to be. Did you know that that's high enough that you could put the Statue of Liberty right now on the surface of the water, and it would barely touch the height of that white ring? God is not happy. It's time for everyone to realize that. But he loves his children. And we are part of his family. Things are about to get tough, but you walk under that wing of his leadership, his word, walk that narrow path. And even if you can't get your family to, then you be that stone that's up out of the water when the flood comes, where they can look over there and see he was right. He was storing food. He was getting prepared for the whole family. So rise above the conflicts, and you be just as Joseph was in Egypt. Guys, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.